Medieval convents were supposed to be sanctuaries of peace and piety. Women who joined these religious institutions often did so with a vow to serve God, dedicating their lives to prayer, learning, and acts of charity. For some, this was a noble calling, a choice made willingly out of devotion. For others, however, the convent was a prison. Many young women were sent to convents against their will, often by noble families seeking to avoid the cost of dowries or as a punishment for rebellious behavior. While these convents offered opportunities for education and refuge, they also imposed strict rules. Vows of chastity, poverty, and obedience governed every aspect of a nun's life. Yet, beneath the surface, not all nuns accepted this fate quietly. Some found ways to reclaim their individuality, even if it meant breaking their sacred vows. In the shadows of their cloistered lives, nuns found surprising sources of forbidden pleasures. One of the most discreet forms of rebellion was through literature. While they were supposed to study religious texts, some nuns gained access to banned books, including works of romance and erotica. These secret readings transported them to worlds far removed from their confined realities. Food was another avenue of indulgence. Despite vows of poverty, nuns in wealthier convents often enjoyed lavish feasts during holidays. They smuggled in rare spices, fine wines, and even delicacies like sugar, which were luxury items at the time. But perhaps the most scandalous indulgences came in the form of forbidden relationships. Hidden away from the eyes of the world, some nuns formed romantic attachments, whether with fellow nuns, priests, or even outsiders, who managed to infiltrate the convent walls. Poetry and artwork created by nuns often carried subtle hints of their unspoken desires. Scandals and consequences. The secrets of convent life didn't always remain hidden. Over time, certain scandals became too big to contain. One infamous case involved a group of nuns who were accused of hosting men inside their convent under the guise of religious gatherings. When the truth was uncovered, they faced severe punishments, ranging from public humiliation to excommunication. In other instances, convents were investigated for harboring heretical activities, including the practice of forbidden rituals or the possession of blasphemous texts. Nuns caught in romantic relationships often faced brutal repercussions. In some cases, they were forced into stricter isolation or even physical punishments designed to cleanse their sins. Such incidents also prompted the Church to tighten its grip on convents, introducing stricter regulations to curb any form of misconduct. Romantic entanglements, though far more dangerous, were not unheard of. There were whispers of nuns engaging in forbidden love affairs, often with priests, monks, or even noblemen who visited the convent. These clandestine relationships were not just about physical desire, but often involved a deep emotional connection with secret letters, passionate exchanges, and even illicit meetings in hidden corners of the convent. Such romantic bonds were highly dangerous as they directly defied the vow of chastity. But for some, the thrill of the forbidden only heightened the intensity of these relationships. Even personal adornment, such as wearing fine fabrics or secretly hoarding cosmetics, was a discreet way of indulging in vanity. Literary and intellectual pursuits, especially when involving secular or controversial texts, were another form of forbidden delight. These books, often considered dangerous, contained not just knowledge, but also escapist fantasies, fueling dreams of a life beyond the convent's restrictive walls. Power dynamics within convents often dictated who could access such pleasures. Abbesses, as the heads of convents, wielded significant influence and were sometimes complicit in or beneficiaries of these indulgences. Hierarchies among nuns often created an environment where some could bend the rules more easily than others, adding another layer of complexity to convent life. The historical records are rife with accounts of nuns who broke their vows in pursuit of forbidden pleasures. Some of these stories, such as the scandals of certain French convents in the 12th century, became the subject of public gossip and even ecclesiastical investigation. These tales reveal a world where the sacred and the profane often intertwined. Temptations didn't always arise from within the convent. Clergy, noble patrons, and other outsiders sometimes intruded, bringing with them gifts, luxuries, and, occasionally, seduction. Smuggling contraband into convents, from fine wine to love notes, was not uncommon. These external temptations further blurred the lines between monastic discipline and worldly desires. When indulgences were discovered, the Church responded with varying degrees of severity. Punishments ranged from public penance to imprisonment within the convent. In some cases, the guilty nun was stripped of her position or reassigned to a harsher monastery. These punishments served both as a deterrent and as a reminder of the spiritual stakes involved. At the heart of these forbidden pleasures was a deep psychological conflict. Nuns were human, after all, and balancing spiritual devotion with natural human desires was a daily struggle. Letters and writings from medieval nuns reveal this internal battle, with some expressing guilt over their indulgences and others justifying their actions as moments of weakness. Ultimately, the stories of forbidden pleasures in medieval convents highlight the duality of human nature. Even within spaces dedicated to the divine, the pull of earthly desires proved impossible to eliminate. These tales remind us that the lives of medieval nuns were far more complex and human than the strict ideals of their vocation might suggest. The very act of seeking love, affection, and romance, whether through hidden relationships or clandestine meetings, reveals just how deeply these women wrestled with their vows, their desires, and the very essence of their humanity.